It's not Halloween anymore. I'm sorry. Sorry I'm late. You shouldn't be here! Anyway, so what we're gonna do is, this is the first time I'm ever gonna go, off the calendar and just say, fuck it, Halloween month doesn't end until I say it does. And today we're gonna be reviewing probably one of the more divisive Halloween films before Halloween ends. Halloween from 2007, directed by Rob Zombie, aka the Rob Zombie remake. Now, they were gonna, as I'm sure everyone knows, they were gonna make plans to do a sequel off Resurrection. But Mustafa Akkad was killed in a tragic terrorist attack, and it was really fucked up, and they didn't get a chance to do another one. So, from what I understand, I believe it's his son, or I'm terrible when it comes to information like that, so forgive me if I'm getting it wrong, but basically, I think it was the son or something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he gave the Okay, so essentially what happened was Rob Zombie was called to do a remake, and he was like, "Hey, John Carpenter, can I do a remake?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, shit, bro, just make it your own, And he's like, "Okay." So what Rob Zombie tried to do was he tried to retell the same story, but have the first half of the movie be a new telling of Michael Myers, be an origin story, and how it explains why Michael kills. So when this came out, it was pretty controversial. People were not thrilled about it, but since then, people come around to it. It's okay. And if you guys remember my first review for this movie, which is now gone, but if you remember seeing it, I did not like this movie. In fact, the first time I watched it, I hated it. In my eyes, it was the most distasteful film I've ever seen. I absolutely loathed this movie. And then I rewatched it with my friends a few years later, and I thought it was okay. Then I rewatched it again, and I liked it. And ever since then, my thoughts have been the same on that. I actually quite like this movie. Now, hear me out, okay? Hear me out on this one. There's a lot of things I like and a lot of things I don't like, and I'll go into that. First and foremost, the things I do like. Honestly, I like the fact that it tried to do something different and tried to explain how Michael Myers became who he is, how he became the quote-unquote boogeyman, how evil, how instead of, him just being the shape of evil, it shows how, evil can shape an innocent child like Michael into becoming pure evil. I like that, and it was interesting. I'll get more into that in a bit in my dislikes, but okay. First of all, I think everyone does a good job on this movie. Everyone plays their part well. I thought the person who did Laurie Strode was good. The person who played Michael was good, though he is a little bit too tall for my liking, though I'm not a nitpicker bitch who is just like, he's too tall, he can't be. It's like, bro, it's a remake. Come on, it's something different, I liked Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis, but of course, not in this one. So, who do you get to replace him? Well, Malcolm McDowell. Let's say something very controversial. When I saw this movie, for the third time, at first, I liked him more than Donald Pleasence. Now, I think they're equal. You see, here's why I like Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis. He's crazy. He's insane. But he's got a charm to him. He's got this, feeling we love to see Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis go around shouting, he's pure evil. He's got the blackest eyes. He's nothing. And we love to see him chase the boogeyman down, the good versus evil dynamic in films and such. The thing I liked about Malcolm McDowell's portrayal as Dr. Loomis is that towards the first half of the movie, he seems to genuinely care about Michael, trying to help him, comforting him. I think the best person who explained it was Nostalgia Critic in his review. I know that's weird saying, Nostalgia Critic. I thought he did a good job explaining it for the most part. What I liked about it was like, he's over the course of the film, he's like, oh, he's a kid. I'm going to comfort him. I'm going to try to explain to him why you're here and how to help him. But over the course of the film, you see him realize there's no good in him. And it's very saddening to see. And I like that dynamic. Now, obviously, people have made comment that, oh, he doesn't care. He made it look like he cared for him, but he really didn't. And he just did it for publicity and shit. But, for his book. And they addressed that in the film. But I don't think it's like that. I think it's like, afterwards, he had nothing left. Michael Myers, he even says it in the film, in a way, you're like my best friend. And after that, he has nothing because he's out of the job. So he writes a book and talks about it. I don't know. I like Donald Pleasence. I love Donald Pleasence. And I love Malcolm McDowell. So they're both equal. But I think this is a unique take on Dr. Loomis for it to stand enough on its own. And I liked it. I know most people hate this Dr. Loomis, but nothing can get by my hatred for Rob Zombie's 2. And I'll get that in the next review. But I liked Malcolm McDowell as Dr. Loomis. One more thing I'll say about my likes. I love the way this film looks. It looks very gritty and it looks very dark, and the kills are very graphic, so gorehounds will love the kills. Michael Myers is legitimately scary. And another thing I'll say is I actually like the score for this film. It's Rob Zombie. I've never been a real fan of his music, although I've heard only a handful of his songs, but I've never been a fan. But damn, the soundtrack kicked ass in this film. I love when the theme played. It was epic. Actually, one more thing. I really fucking love the alternate ending for this movie. I love the alternate ending. And I'll get into that in just a minute. Dislikes. So while all the things that I just shared that I liked, I will be honest, where the film kind of loses me is in it trying to explain Michael Myers' backstory. And unfortunately, that's where it kind of fails for a lot of people. The fact that, oh, okay, you want to explore Michael Myers' backstory. Cool, it's more creepy when you don't know his origin, but okay, it's a remake, do something different. I can get behind that. The problem people have is the fact that it's, well, if you know Rob Zombie's style and horror, it's kind of like a grindhouse, dark and gritty and redneck type of horror, if you know what I mean. Like, freaking, obviously, House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, Lords of Salem. It's Rob Zombie stylish, and I don't know if he succeeded in what he was aiming for, because I'm going to be honest, Michael Myers as a young kid is a fucking brat. And I don't buy that kid becomes Michael Myers. The kid does a good job at portraying him, but here's my biggest gripe with what Rob Zombie wanted to do. He wanted to explore that, he comes from a troubled life, a redneck dysfunctional family. And that's okay, man. Like, if you're going to do that, that's fine. But you didn't really do it that well. It's not bad. It's just, it could have been explored more. It's the stereotypical screaming and shouting, the Rob Zombie style and how people act. So it doesn't really feel like anything new is being added. It's like, okay, well, it's just a bunch of redneck assholes. And as Nostalgia Critic put it, it's like, oh, just a bunch of redneck assholes. Got it. Wait, we're stuck in this environment for less than 40 minutes? It's like, you don't need to do that. We don't need to be in this environment for 40 minutes, especially since the first half is exploring his origin and the second half is a retelling of the first movie, which it does very well. The original is obviously better in every regard. It's one of my favorite movies and one of my favorite horror movies of all time, if not my favorite horror film of all time. And unfortunately, I don't think Rob Zombie succeeded in what he was aiming for, but where other people will just shit on this film, I admire the approach, and I liked it. Like, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but I don't think he succeeded in what he was aiming for. But I liked it because there's nothing awful about it. It's just like, it's remake. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not what I want, but it's not bad. It's my personal nitpicks. other than my personal nitpicks, I think it's fine. It's like, okay, you know, he's come from a redneck asshole family, whatever, cool. Okay, just, you know, wait for this to be over. And after that ends, it gets really good in my eyes. I will say this, though, that, and this is a nitpick with a scene in the director's cut. There is a scene in a very long, uncomfortable shot or scene where these two, like, prison guards or asylum guards rape an inmate, and it goes on for way too long, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. And, you know, that's not like a problem with the movie, it's just a problem with a scene. I don't know why that scene was added in the film. Like, it doesn't really add to anything. In fact, the original theatrical cut has a much better and interesting Michael Myers breaks out from a bunch of prison guards who's transferring him to a new, like, facility. That's cool. It's a very well done scene, but in the director's cut, they have a rape scene. Cool. Other than that, I think some of the pacing is a little weird too. Some of the pacing is like okay, you know, origin story, talking to Michael, trying to recover him in the hospital and stuff like that, talk with Dr. Loomis. Then he breaks out, and then we get the remake, and it's a 2-hour movie. So for some, it could be a little like, you know, I've seen this before, so can you move along? So it has some structural issues, but my biggest problem with this film, well, other than the rape scene, which is in the director's cut, so it's not really a problem with the film, but you know what I mean. My biggest problem with this film, I think the alternate ending blows the ending for both versions out of the water. If you don't know, the alternate ending basically shows the real Dr. Loomis in this film and what they were going for. Dr. Loomis, you see, the whole movie is building up that, like, okay, Loomis had a connection with Michael, and at this point, Michael's gone. He goes for his baby sister in this remake timeline. So Dr. Loomis sets out to help Laurie and maybe help Michael along the way. Stop to his reign of terror. What he does is he actually says, "It's my fault, and I want you to stop stop killing Michael Myers." And Laurie doesn't know that it's her brother. So she's like, you know, like, she hears Loomis say Michael, and she's like, "Michael, please, like, let me go." And Michael's like, "What am I doing, man? What am I doing? Like, you know, I gave all of this up." And the police are surrounding. It's a very tense scene. Michael drops the knife and hands over Laurie to Dr. Loomis. It's a very emotional and dramatic scene. In a way, it's kind of like the King Kong ending, where it's like, you know, not Beauty killed the Beast, but it's like, you know, Kong is like he only really cares about the one he loves. And Michael is just he's full of rage that he doesn't think. And when he hears his sister Laurie call him Michael, he just regrets everything. And he drops his knife and he lets her go. And he starts to walk towards them. Some person said that he was going to walk towards them to, like, you know, hug them or some stupid shit like that. I don't believe that, but, like, you know, whatever. He was walking towards them, and the police officers open fire and kill Michael. And that's the end of the movie. I love that alternate ending. That's like, oh shit, hold on. Sorry about that. That's like the best alternate ending I've seen for any film, at least when it comes to mind. Unfortunately, the ending we got is, okay, Laurie's just avoiding Michael. They fall off a roof edge and she shoots him in the head. If you went with the alternate ending, at least you would spare us from the sequel. This movie has flaws, but ultimately it's not a bad film. And every time I watch it, I expect to hate it. I end up finding some new things to appreciate about it. And I like the new, you know, attempt to try to make a sympathetic Michael Myers. While it's not scary, you know, you understand why he's doing it. And for trying to do something different, I can appreciate it. I know this video is long as shit. It's probably my longest review yet. But guys, you might hate me for this. I'm gonna give this a B-. So, sorry if you disagree, but tough shit.